My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you all just heard, I've been asked to touch on two very pertinent and important issues that's in the media, not only in South Africa but internationally presently. But I think what I'll do is very quickly I'll touch on the issues of land expropriation, because I think many people in South Africa and abroad are a bit concerned about it. And then we'll go on to the very hotly debated and contested issue of state capture in South Africa and state capture globally. As you're all aware, land expropriation was a process that the oppressed apartheid regime implemented decades ago. The sole purpose of this was to ensure that only the white community of South Africa could benefit from ultimately every resource in South Africa. Whether you talk about the land, whether you talk about the water, if you talk about the money, if you talk about the control, if you talk about the sports, if you talk about education, in every aspect you would find that whatever the apartheid regime did pre-1994, they did it to benefit just a few people, and that was the white minority. Now when it comes to the issue of land expropriation, we have two different aspects. One is the aspect of land expropriation for the purposes of agriculture or farming. And then of course you all are aware of the Group Areas Act, where our people were forcefully removed from so-called areas so that whites could move into those areas. Now let me start off with the issue of the agricultural or farming land as we refer to it. These lands, and I think you all, my brothers and sisters, must agree with me, that in terms of law, and I'm happy that we have some of our legal people sitting here today, that if you take something unlawfully, then it's illegal, it's unlawful, it's a criminal offense. If you bought it and you knew that it was acquired through unlawful means, then it's also a criminal offense. If you retain possession of it and it was gained through unlawful means, it's still a criminal offense. So then the question that arises is that if the current farm owners have access to this land or are in possession of this land, and that have acquired this land through unlawful means or were aware at all given time that the land that they were either purchasing or acquired freely from the previous apartheid regime was unlawful, then you must agree with me that they are a party to the criminal activity that took place. Now the question that arises is, and we all are aware that government has put in processes, it's in the Constitution in terms of Section 25, where we put a process to try and take back the land that was unlawfully taken from our people and return it to its rightful owners. Now, obviously, those that are now in possession will not want to relinquish that right. Those that have lost the property want that property and they want it now. But brothers and sisters, 24 years later, we were not able to do that. Why? We've had a clause which we call the willing buyer and the willing seller clause, which means we've negotiated to take back the land. But remember, we are asking to take back the land, but we are also willing to pay for the land, which in my view we should not even be paying for, because you acquired it unlawfully. You acquired it for next to nothing, if not for nothing. But here, we are still saying, in order to find an amicable solution, let us take back the land that you unlawfully took and return it to its rightful owners. And for that we are willing to pay. And we've tried, and we've tried, and we've tried, with very little success. So now we are saying, we want to expropriate without compensation. What does expropriation without compensation mean? It's not, we are not saying that we're going to go out there tomorrow and take away that land in the most barbaric manner that it might have happened in some of the other countries. No. We are now putting you in a position where you have to make that decision. It's either you agree to relinquish that rights for which we are paying you and return that land to the rightful owners, or we will take it away without compensating you. So you have the choice. Now my brothers and sisters, some of them are arguing, we have taken a lot of land and we've given it to some people, and at the moment they are standing redundant. Yes, of course. Remember those people that you took away the land from ended up being laborers or workers in these agricultural farms. If you do not, and remember, they did not have education, they did not have proper water, there was nothing that the apartheid regime was willing to do for black South Africans, absolutely nothing. They dehumanized us in the most barbaric of manners. I think you all are aware we've lost some brothers, Yusuf Dadu, Ahmed Timal, just naming a few of them. These are the people who sacrificed. Now coming back to the issue of the land, they've taken it, we are saying you give it. If you're not going to give it to us, we are now going to take it and give it back to our people. You then say, we've given land to people, government has purchased it, returned it, and it's redundant, it's not functioning. Surely it can't function if you don't transfer those skills. You must educate those farmers. You must teach them management. You must give them all the necessary tools and the skills for them to make that farm into a success. Now you can't just relinquish the farm and expect them to be able to do it on their own. They can't. So we are saying, we will take back that land, we will pay you. If you don't want to relinquish that land after we want to pay you, we will take it by force and give it to the people. But we are not going to take the land and just give it to people. We are not going to give you money for the land. We are going to give you the land. We are going to equip you. We are going to give you all the necessary skills so that you can make a success of that farm. Now, we must be mindful of one thing, brothers. Some are arguing and saying, no, it's unlawful to take it away. Then is it lawful for you to continue to be in possession of something that doesn't belong to you? No, it's not. It must be returned to its rightful owners. And that is all we are saying. So there is no plan on government or any of us political parties, maybe some of them might, or any agenda to go there ruthlessly and just throwing farmers out from there and retaining the land. But you must understand and appreciate that we have to address the inequalities of the past, and we have to address this unlawful occupation of those land pre-94, which was handed over, which was forcefully taken. Now let me also tell you, we are talking about agricultural land, then we have land in terms of the group areas that where our people were moved out. And today you will realize that that land is very, very valuable. Right now, as we stand here, or we sit here in this masjid, if you take the Western Cape, the entire Western Cape land for development is only handed to about 2 or 3 people. They control the entire land in the Western Cape. If you take District 6, which we're fighting for to return the land, there are still people in Woodstock and other areas that are continuously being evicted right up to today. If we don't stop this and address this, we cannot create an equal society. And that is what we are trying to do in terms of the land. I have very limited time and I want to go on to the very important issue of state capture. My brothers and sisters, what you hear, what you see in the media is not a true account of what state capture is in South Africa. Let me advise you, The state was captured decades ago. The world is captured decades ago. In South Africa alone, 3 billionaires own an equivalent of 50% of the wealth of South Africa. Your mining industry, your financial institutions, your retail trade, your manufacturing food industries, all belong to a few people. White monopoly capital in South Africa was in control, and they continue to be in control up to today. Now, I know there's one famous name we've all heard, and we hear it every day. We're probably dreaming them and sleeping them in, and that is the name of the Guptas. Let me advise you. Yes, indeed, what has happened in terms of the Guptas and others is wrong. It's totally unacceptable. But the fight that is going on in state capture in South Africa is not about the Guptas. It is about terrain, it's about domain. That for decades, that control, that power was in the hands of white monopoly capital. Presently, they still control it. But there's a fear that as the white monopoly control that we have in South Africa and internationally, we are beginning to lose that control slowly. And that is what the fight is. That how has the Guptas coming to interfere in our area? This is our wealth, this is our country, this is our money. So the fight is not about the corruption. It is not about the capture. It is about somebody else coming and taking what white monopoly capital in South Africa believes is rightfully theirs. Now, let me tell you, presently in South Africa, pre-94, just before the white government handed over, which they were forced to do, they have given contracts for 30 and 40 years, which we call evergreen contracts. Currently, white monopoly capital is still in control of those things. Let me talk about the SAA. SAA, how is it possible, brothers and sisters, that every other airline is making a success beside SAA? How is it that you will take out SAA doing a route from Durban to Cape Town, and the next day SAA is there, back to capacity on every flight? Because they want us to even take South African Airways and privatize that. They want us to privatize Eskom. Your Reserve Bank of South Africa belongs to a few people, not to the people of this country. A few white monopoly capitalists, a few business leaders. Your Johannesburg Stock Exchange is controlled by them. Now let me also tell you, there are countries that are funding political parties in South Africa to destabilize South Africa, to overthrow South Africa. Some of you would have heard, some of my colleagues from Parliament have been visiting certain countries like Israel. You've heard of the water crisis in the Western Cape. Believe me, it affects our people every day. They say there's no water. But yet there is evidence to prove that there's enough water, there's no more day zero. There was day zero, it moved to the next month, to the following month, now it's the next year, now we've been told there's no day zero. Why? Only because the state is captured. How is it captured? Remember, we have 3 spheres of government, national, provincial. The province of the Western Cape is captured. That water contract was going to be issued to Israel to get 600 million rand for the election campaign in 2019. So you created a crisis to let people know we have now a serious problem. There is no water. But let me advise you, 15, 20 years ago, we all knew there's going to be a crisis. We all knew about global warming. We all knew about droughts. The city of Cape Town alone has something like 32 outlets of water just in the city bowl, underneath Parliament, where we debate every day. Each outlet is about 2.5 million liters of water running into the sea every day. Each outlet. Just around the city bowl, outside of that, there's about 70 outlets. We did nothing about it. Why? We wanted to create a crisis. We need the money for the election that's coming up. That is why it was done. And what happened? Now to be able to give another contract to communicate this message about the crisis. Who does it give it to? You give it to your own people with no following, no processes. So that is what we call state capture. Anybody that is able to get the resources of the state and the people generally in South Africa have captured the state. We are forgetting about that. Now, I was talking to you about those evergreen contracts. Eskom, Denel, South African neighbors, each and every one of them. If you talk about the coal, you're talking about the Guptas, that coal was controlled before by the government that was in actual fact giving it to its own people. They want to keep control of it. Your media is controlled in South Africa, is controlled by white monopoly capital. What you hear and what you see 3/4 of the time is propaganda, is not the truth. Now let me tell you, South Africa has a lot of challenges. Yes, indeed we do. But we also have a lot of successes. Nobody talks about the successes. But what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to come together as a nation. The good thing about state capture and the fact that it has come out into the open, it's created an awareness into each and every individual. Because remember, if I am stealing from the coffers of the state, I'm actually stealing your money. I'm stealing your children's money. I'm stealing your grandchildren's money. That is what I'm doing. When I'm destroying this country with my corruption, with my fraud, with my maladministration, I'm destroying your country. We need to, as South Africans, come together and fight corruption in South Africa. Fight the state capture. We need to take away the power that is in the hands of the few and spread it out to all South Africans. And that is what we mean by radical socio-economic transformation. Right now I was talking to you about the land in the Western Cape. Socially in the Western Cape, you'll be shocked at the conditions that people live in. There's 3,000 houses going to be coming up, given to a developer who's connected to them. Only 10% of that is going to be for the poorest of the poor. This is what it is all about. You are all aware of all the massages that were opposed by some of the political parties. Durban North, Avondale Road, Pinelands in Cape Town, Plettenberg Bay, you name it, it's there. Why? Because we, as Muslims, are not coming together. We need to come together, we need to stand together. We might be a minority, but we are a very powerful minority, I want to tell you, in South Africa. I think I've got 4 minutes left there. I have to watch my time. And you know, politicians, we don't stop talking, we can go on and on. But my brothers and sisters, the message I want to give to you, corruption, what you see and what corruption is in South Africa is two different things. Absolutely, I want to tell you. I'm hoping that there's going to be a debate in Parliament soon where I'm doing a debate on state capture, and that's where you'll hear the facts of exactly what is happening and how the South African economy is controlled by a few. I even went on to talk about HIV and AIDS and where it came from. Because there are very great suspicions, and there is evidence in my understanding that it was created to reduce the population in South Africa so that we reduce the black population in order that you'll be able to control. And South Africa is the thorn in the flesh when we talk about Africa as a whole. Remember, for decades they said there's no cure for HIV and AIDS. But the moment South Africa started manufacturing its own antiretroviral, they say now we think we've got a cure. So let me tell you what is happening. The entire world, there's one man, you heard the name Rothschild, I don't know if any of you heard, owned almost 98% of all the banks in the world. 8 billionaires in the world own half of the world. 3 billionaires in South Africa own half of the wealth of South Africa. And are we saying it should be business as usual? No. We cannot change the lives of our people. You heard of the listeriosis crisis that we've had recently? Owned by who? The same white monopoly capital. Owned by them. They supply it to their own shops. All the shop rights, all the Pick n Pays belong to the same people. They've told you you must not buy a particular Polonian, a particular Vienna. What they didn't tell you that the very same enterprise supplies Pick and Pay, ShopRite with all the ingredients that they make their no-name brand with, exactly the same thing. So you should not be buying any of that stuff at all. They're not going to tell you that. We are sitting in a crisis. Our lives are in the hands of a few people. And we are saying, let's take away that power and give it to all our people in the world. All our people in South Africa must share in the equal wealth of our country. Not just a few. The oppression of the past, pre-1994, cannot continue year in and year out. And that is why we need to rise, we need to stand, we need to say with one voice, we are not going to have a South Africa that we've had pre-1994. Not ever in our lives again. My brothers, my time is up. I want to thank the Musallis, the Emmam, all of you for giving me the opportunity for coming here and saying a few words. As you know, time is off. I have time constraints, but inshallah, you can follow us on Parliament and see what is going on. If you have any input, you are welcome to write to me or communicate with me through via chat, through various channels, through Parliament, to find out if you anything you want us to tell you what is going on in South Africa in terms of whether it's policing, whether it's health, anything that makes a difference in the lives of our people. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.